The last time Bitcoin did this, we saw a 200% rally toward the upside. Will history repeat itself? Let's go ahead and find out. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. In today's video, we are doing a macro and short-term analysis, going over some very important developments on the higher time frames, such as the Gaussian channel breakout, the 2-week stochastic cross, and so much more. We'll also be taking a look at exactly what is happening on the short-term price action as Bitcoin is retesting a major weekly uptrend. And finally, we're going to be discussing Bitcoin dominance as well as the weekly charts. Before we do get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. It takes a few seconds. It is the first link down below. You'll get access to daily charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop of cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. If you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us on VIP. We have a VIP channel where we post trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll get access to not only all of our trades, but you'll also get access to our group chats, our general chat, trading chart and education chat, daily video, news, help, and trade setup chat. Check it out, guys. Contact me in the pinned comment of the free channel by clicking my name or these links for more information. And let's go ahead and jump on in. So taking a look at that market data to start off with, 24-hour volume is down 23%, sitting at a total of 124 billion, still relatively high. 24-hour liquidation is down 21%, sitting at 140 million. Of the 140 million, 113 million have come from long positions, and 27 million have come from short positions. Of the 140 million in liquidations, 27 million have come from Bitcoin and the remainder from the rest of the market. Looking at the short-term price action over the past 24 hours, and if you are following me in that Telegram channel, you would have known we discussed this chart over here yesterday, talked about the likelihood of a retest of that 65k support, filling that gap you see here on the VRPV, which has now been filled. As we can see, that gap has been filled and Bitcoin has come down to retest that 65k support, which lines up with that weekly uptrend. So we've seen a bit of a downward move in the past 24 hours toward that weekly uptrend, but we are now retesting a major level of support, which we'll be discussing in massive detail in just a moment. So that is Bitcoin, guys. Let's jump over to the broader markets, economic news, and market data. Moving over to the market over here, the DXY is still hovering around the same level it has been doing so for quite some time now, around that 104 range. Not really expecting that much decision in terms of directional moves for the DXY. Now we're looking much more towards that economic release, which is going to be the interest rate release on the 1st of August, which is in about 6, I think, maybe 7 days. 1st of August, 7 days, 4 a.m. Australian GMT plus 10 time, looking for that interest rate decision. Again, if we do get any indication of those rates going back up, which is very unlikely, we will very much likely see the DXY rally aggressively. If we see a pause, we're going to very likely see the DXY trickle downwards. If we see a pivot, we might see a little bit interesting reaction, because we'll be discussing that in a lot more detail in another video. But nevertheless, the interest rate news will be a catalyst for the DXY to aggressively move, regardless of what result we generally see. Moving over to the broader markets, the S&P 500 over here has taken a little bit of a downward turn over the last 2 weeks. Not that concerning again, guys. If we do look at the higher time frame, we have seen these drawn out corrections during uptrends, and corrections during uptrends are perfectly normal. The only time we are generally worried about corrections if these corrections end up breaking below major high time frame structural supports. In this instance, the structural support we are watching is going to be 5.3, so 5,300. A loss of 5,300 would be the first indication of a high time frame change of character, which is going to be a representation of a trend reversal. So right now we are potentially seeing a local top, not a macro top, a local top, which has led into a healthy short-term correction. If we do see a correction down to 5,300, that is totally okay. If we drop below that level, that is when we should see some macro reversals potentially play out. That is it for the broader markets. Let's go ahead and jump into Bitcoin. So as we've said already, we're going over Bitcoin dominance. We're going over the total. We're going over the macro charts. We're going over the short term and the weekly charts. Before we get into it, a quick word from today's video sponsor, and we'll jump on in. I wanted to briefly interrupt today's video to discuss the two exchanges we use on this channel, BitGet and BingX. So which exchange should you sign up to? If you look to the right hand side of the screen, you're going to see the list of differences in relation to KYC requirements and the countries these exchanges offer services to. The first link down below being the BitGet link and the second link down below being the BingX link. No matter which link you sign up to, you're going to get up to 15% discounts on your trading fees, up to $5,000 in trading rewards, and of course, you'll get access to every single MegaWhale exclusive bonus campaign we run on these exchanges. Alongside that, BitGet and BingX are incredibly similar. They are both ranked top 10 in terms of trading volume. They both have extensive liquidity pools and market pairs offering up to 125x leverage. And most importantly, they both offer protection funds for their users to protect you against any third-party hacks. So get started now and support the channel by clicking the links below. Thanks for listening. Okay team, let's go ahead and jump on into Bitcoin, and I wanted to start on the 3-day and the 2-week chart in macro, and then break it down to the smaller time frame by the end of the video, and then finish up on the total and Bitcoin dominance. So as we can see guys, over the last few weeks, Bitcoin saw a very healthy rally toward the upside, around about 15-16% move from the downside over here at around that 53k lows to around 65 to 68,000. We saw that bounce from the major leading span B of the Ichimoku cloud. This is something we've been discussing for quite some time now. We're going to slowly start phasing out of this discussion, but a few more times we need to talk about it. But there are some key levels still on this chart we need to talk about. But we told you guys that the leading span B was a key level of support as we came down to retest it at 53,000. It is still going to act as a key trigger point, which is going to be a bearish trigger point for continuations lower. So primarily, if we do see a correction back to that 55k level, back under that 55k level, we will be seeing an extended correction likely into that 50k region. That is a statement we can make with a very high degree of certainty, because if we look back historically, every single time on the 3-day chart that Bitcoin has closed a 3-day candle underneath the leading span B, this is every single time in the past 14 years, we have seen corrections for Bitcoin from 15 to 71%. So we have a very clear bearish validation point here for the Bitcoin 3-day chart, which is going to be the leading span B. But on the bullish side scenario, what we have seen is we saw a stochastic RSI cross at the same time we were retesting the leading span B, which we have these two green arrows, whereas the RSI was at a greater point on the histogram in comparison to the first time it was retesting the leading span B, which we said increases the probability for a bounce, which we have seen. That bounce took us over the baseline of the Ichimoku cloud, which is the red line, as well as breaking the price back over the leading span A, which is a significant point representative of high time frame strength. So Bitcoin's leading span A on the 3-day is at 63,000. I would like you to remember that number as it has massive significance when we get to our short-term analysis, and the leading span B is going to be 55,000. Let's move over now to a very important chart, which is going to be the 2-week chart. If we move over to the 2-week chart and we're taking a look at that stochastic RSI again, what we can see is the prior time we saw that 3-day cross on the stochastic and bounce, the leading span B over here, we saw a stochastic crossover shortly after. It was around about let's take a look, it was 1, 2, 3. We saw within 3 weeks after that cross point, we saw a stochastic flip toward the positive side. We saw a bullish stochastic flip. This was around 2 to 3 weeks after we had that bounce from the leading span B. So if we're looking at the leading span B as a bounce over here, we can see that stochastic RSI is almost looking like it is bottoming out over here. It is sitting well under the 20-point on the histogram, very oversold, looking for a potential conversion toward the upside. So we could see within the next 1 to 2 weeks, because we are on that second weekly candle post the cross on the 3-day, 1 to 2 weeks time, we could see that stochastic RSI cross back over and thus facilitate a directional continuation like we saw over here. This is of course a very good thing, but it does open up a window period of about 1 to 2 weeks. So we're looking around 7 to 14 days where Bitcoin could see some turbulence and we could see some corrections develop still. Now remember that interest rate data release comes out within that 7 to 14 day window, actually smack bang in that 7 to 14 day window, which could act as a catalyst for that cross of the stochastic or a short-term correction. Very interesting thing to watch, guys. When we do see that stochastic cross in 1 to 2 weeks, we could see this pattern play out once again, which will result in Bitcoin rallying upwards. Very interesting. Let's go back to the 3-day chart one more time for the Gaussian channel. We can see the Gaussian channel, we have managed to break back above the Gaussian channel here. We have temporarily peaked that price action back above again. While we are in this Gaussian channel region, we are still in a uptrend. We are only going to be in a macro downtrend when that lower band is lost. Remember, the last time we flipped the Gaussian channel was right over here. We have not flipped it bearish yet. A bearish flip on the Gaussian channel would require the price action to break the lower band. So right now, since this point, we have been in an uptrend according to the Gaussian channel. Awesome stuff, guys. Let's move over to a shorter time frame chart. Let's just go ahead and bring these charts back to standard because we do like to keep these nice and accurate. Perfect. Okay, moving over. Let's take a look at a weekly chart, guys. So nice and simply, and I told you to remember that 63,000 price point for a very specific reason. The reason I told you to remember that price point is because 63,000 actually lines up identically with the midline, okay, the midline of the horizontal consolidation. I mean, descending channel consolidation. Still a parallel channel. It is a descending parallel channel. The 63K level, and I urge you to go back and, watch that bit again if you forgot why 63K was important. Not only is it important in terms of the 3-day chart, but we can see the confluence here on that weekly structural chart. We can see that every single time we break through that midline, we see strong directional continuations in the price action to retest these range lows, okay, or to retest these range highs. And we can see Bitcoin is sitting above that midline. The probability of a range high retest is greater than the probability of a range low retest. So from a structural perspective, Bitcoin is technically bullish while it remains above 63,000. And we'll come back to that point yet again when we go to our short-term analysis, something to think about. If we're looking at this from a structural perspective, this is a descending channel, so we know two things, two facts. Fact number one, we are in a downtrend, okay? It's not a very steep downtrend, but it is a wide downtrend. So the swings from lows to highs are of great percentage, okay? But not particularly volatile. I mean, it is a slow trend, but it is a great trend of volatility. And number two, this is a bullish reversal pattern while we remain within the consolidation and do not invalidate the low side or range low of support. Meaning, provided we remain within this channel, no matter how long we chop sideways, the moment of which we sustain a breakout upwards, we will see a directional continuation higher. From a measured move perspective, we can take the range low to range high. We take 0.1 to 0.2, first red line to second green arrow, apply it to a perceived breakout point. That would take us to around 85,000 as an expected breakout target. That is only expected once the breakout occurs, hence expected breakout target, right? It's in the way we say it. So only when we see the breakout of that trend line does the target of 85K become a valid target, has become a realistic objective for Bitcoin to go to. If you were to map it out on a chart, it would look something like this. So I'm not going to tell you where to put your stop loss, but let's talk about invalidations or validations. For that trade to be validated, we would need to see a break of that channel, and only at that point of the channel breaking would that trade become validated for a directional continuation higher. So this is an expected high time frame target when we're looking at measured moves. Before the major move to actually play out, we need to see the break of that up-down sloping trend line first, for then that target to be valid. Until then, we are still in a downtrend and we are still chopping between the range higher midline, okay, and the range lower midline, depending on which side of that midline we are sitting on. So let's now move over to the short-term charts. The short-term charts we can see, and this is what everyone's probably watching for, this is quite important right now. And if you don't know this is important, well, it is very important. So let's talk about it. The short-term chart is retesting a weekly uptrend. This weekly uptrend was established on the 16th to 17th of July. We are now, what, 25th? So we're looking about nearly 10 days, actually, about 8 to 9 days, nearly 10-day long uptrend. This uptrend originated around about that 63,000 level. Again, the 63,000 level was retested, you can see right over here, as an area of support, and since then we've been in that uptrend. So that is the uptrend we originated from, and we have been sitting above. This is why this trend line is very important, because a loss of this trend line will potentially facilitate, I say potentially because nothing is certain, the probabilities are greater if we drop below this trend line to see a correction back into that 63k level. Again, now I want you to remember back to our macro analysis. The 63k level is a very important level on the Ichimoku cloud, the leading span A on the 3-day chart, because if we lose a leading span A, and we lose the midline of this channel, we could see a correction back into that mid 50k region, which would retest potentially the leading span B. And if we lose a leading span B at 55,000, which lines up with this lower channel right over here, okay, this lower channel point, we see a macro directional continuation downwards. So you can see how the pieces of the puzzle are kind of connecting now. We have these key trigger points upon key trigger points upon key trigger points, and each one we invalidate, the probabilities of downward continuations increase. While we remain above all of these levels and sustain above these levels, the probabilities for downward continuations are actually quite low, and the upward expectation is much, much more likely. So let's go back to the short term, guys, and discuss. While we sit above this trend line, Bitcoin is in a uptrend. Literally just that simple. We do not need to complicate this stuff, guys, especially when we're at these levels of invalidations. While we are in an uptrend, Bitcoin is an uptrend. What happens in uptrend? Prices go up. What happens? It will go up until the uptrend ends. We are still in an uptrend, therefore Bitcoin is expected to continue higher, provided this level is able to sustain. If we drop below this level, we will see a correction to 63, 64, 63, this region, a major area of support. Perfect. Now, we would not like to see a correction below that level. If we see a correction below that level, we could very well come back down to retest that 60k region. That is a discussion for another day, though. Let's take a look at the short term once again. For the bullish case scenario, for Bitcoin to see a strong continuation into the range high, which is the 72k region, okay, the range high, that 72k region, Bitcoin will need to clear its current resistance at 68k. The 68k range high, this local top, would need to be broken. For Bitcoin to retest that level, we are going to need to break out of this short-term downtrend we have developed, again, by horrible, horrible straight lines. But you can see where there's developed a short-term descending channel into support. So we need to break above that descending channel to see a continuation into that resistance, and thus a break of that resistance would facilitate a strong continuation higher. So the short-term correction isn't anything to be worried about. A lot of people probably panic every time Bitcoin moves a couple $100. Again, like we said already, and you have to remember, Bitcoin can move as much as it wants. Provided key levels of structural support are not broken, movement or fluctuations in price are just that. It is just fluctuations in price. The price cannot always go up. It cannot always go down. It is going to zigzag around between areas of supply and demand. Provided those areas of support hold, it is okay. Provided those areas of resistance hold, it is not going to continue higher. So again, all of this movement we've seen in the last 24 hours, although it's been quite choppy and $100 million in liquidations have occurred, we have to contextualize what this really means. And it doesn't actually mean anything. If Bitcoin was sitting right over here at 66.9k, it would literally make no difference in comparison to Bitcoin sitting at 65k, as we are still sitting above the uptrend support and below the required resistance of which we would need to break out from to see a continuation higher. So the probabilities of directional moves down or up when Bitcoin is between these supports and resistances are equal, and therefore it is only about your entry position in terms of your positions in your trading that actually matters, but in terms of directional probabilities, they are equal. It is irrelevant. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a fantastic day. Again, check out the Telegram channel down below. Check out the VIP channel if you're interested in trading setups and much, much more. Check out those links for our exchanges to get your nice discounts on those exchanges and support me doing these videos. And finally, guys, if you're interested in learning TA, a 10-unit course, this is for you. Become a trader. The Crypto Academy, created by myself and Wolves of Crypto. You can find more information in the pinned comment down below. See you later and catch you tomorrow.